Firstly, good morning to present here today. I thank you, each one of you, for being here with us and feel very privileged to open the event among such an accomplished audience. I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the inaugural session of SEED, Startup Success and Entrepreneurship Development Program, Labs powered by Innovation Hub. Before we start the day, as you know that Saraswati Mata is the goddess of knowledge and wisdom, and to invoke her blessings, we have conducted a small puja lamp here itself in office. Starting with Real Labs. Real Labs was a setup with a view of making a difference to the innovation ecosystem in India. Our mission is to partner organizations and individuals in their R&D projects, partner organizations and individuals in their innovation initiatives, and in their innovation and entrepreneurship efforts. You can see the numbers of our journey so far, and they are increasing day by day. SEED is a program by Real Labs, which is a lectures, workshops, and competition series to complement higher education institutes in their efforts to create an ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship within Innovation Hub, which is a platform for students and faculty in higher education institutions to learn, collaborate, create, share, and showcase their research and entrepreneurial work within a similar-minded complementary community comprising of education institutions, experts, mentors, VCs, and corporates. The SEED program conceived and created by top academicians and industry veterans from across the nation. Some of them are on our advisory and some on our expert panel. You can have a glimpse of our members on your screens right now. I welcome and thank all of these accomplished people for attending the session today. Okay, moving on. Let me give you some details about the session, how it will be conducted. So the session will be conducted in two parts. First session will be from around till 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. And the session topic for today is entrepreneurship and innovation as a career opportunity. The second session will start around 11:30 and will be concluded by 12:30 p.m. It will talk about how SEED will complement your efforts in IIC, NAC, NBA rankings and developing your institutions as an incubator. Before we start with, here are a few admin rules and regulations to keep in mind during the session. During the session, we'll be making certain announcements to keep you all updated about what is going on. So firstly, due to subscriptions and to manage subscriptions as well as the YouTube live streaming, we have centrally muted all the attendees. The Q&A chat box will be always open during the session for Zoom as well as participants who are live stream on YouTube. Our admin team will be collating all the questions for the speaker to answer. Each session will be preceded by a 15-minute Q&A, and we'll be answering as many questions as possible. Whoever cannot, question is not answered, I'll let you know post the session what kind of a procedure we have. We have a 48-hour window open for them to write on a broadcasted email ID, which I'll be sharing on chat in a while. And their questions will be personally answered by the speaker post the session. All right. So talking about session 1, it will set a base about innovation and entrepreneurship and how it can work as a career opportunity, how you can view it that way. The sessions will be conducted by Mr. Saurabh Sinha. A small gist about Saurabh sir's work in the area. He was with the leadership team of Ugam Solutions. They recently got acquired by Merkle for over 800 crores. As part of Ugam, he has built several merchandising and marketing platforms for digital retail, has been involved in VC circles, raising over 10 million USD across a range of startups over the years. He runs Contexio, one of the top 3 agencies of India, servicing global e-commerce retailers. Contexio works with Tata's, Reliance, Flipkart, Walmart, Amazon, etc. to deliver information solutions, employing 150 plus analysts. Runs a Gurukul and Abhyasika network in Raigad and Mumbai, focused on offering a co-curricular program of education for students and children through Takshashila. He runs Reen Labs and is a mentor with leading incubators like SEBA, is a national judge and mentor of Smart India Hackathon and Yukti with Ministry of Education, Ministry 3 years. So over to you, Saurabh sir, for session 1.
A warm welcome to all of you. I hope I'm audible, and just in order to keep this medium going well, if the voice is all audible, maybe a virtual thumbs up will be pretty helpful. All good? Awesome. Okay. I'll be just sharing my screen for the first session. Just give me a moment. Okay. So first and foremost, folks, we kind of started off on a journey a while back, and what's interesting today is that this session that we are going to be taking, when we sent out emails to most of the colleges around, we realized that the need for the same seems to be reflecting there. The kind of entries we've got for this program, which we are conducting in phases with different groups. Today there is one group. We'll be repeating this session with some other groups. We've got participation from colleges which are over about 200 here in India, and they come from almost about over and above 24 states and union territories. Today we have a section with which we are discussing things. We'll be kind of having a repeat session with the rest of the groups in smaller groups to maintain some ability to have a discussion with you one-to-one. So a warm welcome in all the possible languages. The good part is we have folks today joining in on YouTube from Jammu and Kashmir. We have folks joining in from Meghalaya. We've got students joining in from Assam. We've got students joining in from Andaman and Nicobar. And we've got students joining in from Puducherry as a union territory. Besides the fact that we've got participation from a variety of states and many colleges from there. Just paying I would say, touching the feet of all our gurus and the goddess of knowledge. Let's move forward. I'd like to start off by first thanking all the mentors who have joined our expert panel, all the advisory board luminaries who have been in the field of education with us and have been guiding us in this process, as also all our program advisors who've kind of spent their time in trying to give us inputs on how we can design and make this more relevant for the audience that is here. I think Purti kind of covered what we are doing via Innovation Hub, via SEED, and so on. Like I said, the participation is all across the country, and we've kind of got this kind of a, sort of a map. I thought I'll put it on a slide so that you can see how many institutes have subscribed for this discussion. We're really hoping that the interest that is coming in from people kind of translates into active action in their campuses. So the idea of today's session, part 1, is basically what we're kind of doing with, understanding innovation and entrepreneurship as a career opportunity. I think the answer somewhere lies even in this slide, where you can see the kind of interest that is there when we sent out an email around a program like this. Higher education institutions, students who've kind of been looking out for some sort of a guidance in a formal way, it shows that there's something changing at the ground level where people are now taking entrepreneurship a little more seriously. There has been a lot of news, there has been a lot of events, a lot of new names that you're getting to see, but it looks like the generation of entrepreneurship is again coming back to India in a very big way once again. So when we start this session, my goal today will be across 12 to 13 points, trying to tell you how, or explain to you, share knowledge around how innovation and entrepreneurship is probably something that we should be looking at seriously and what we should keep in mind when we kind of go through it. Over the years, I've had the chance of actually being one. I actually started off working with a couple of organizations and then had the chance to set up my own. And that 7-year journey and the 20-year journey, the 15-year journey before that, I think all of it has kind of come together to be able to get you these experiences. So let's understand where we are as a country and let's take things forward from here. So I thought let's begin with first a trivia. As most of the people who are here are educationists or they're students who are undergoing education. And it's a big question that I typically ask in most sessions, that what is this equation? And one of the things that we will realize is that this equation, as a clue, February and March में हमारे सारे जो media के channel anchors होते हैं, all the channel anchors, they get really worried about this. And this is a number which kind of makes the news, and everybody is concerned, अरे ये अगर हो गया तो क्या होगा? Well, for the folks who have understood it, and for the folks who want to understand this better, this is the equation of GDP, the number that we call as gross domestic product. Now, every nation, ever since the concept of nation has come in, has started to account itself and report the GDP as a mark of being able to signify what is the economic status of that country. There can be many indicators, but at this point of time, we've got this as an indicator. Now, there is a huge debate around whether this is really reflective of how social harmony is, or whether society is really doing well or no. But at the moment, we are kind of being governed by this number. So let's kind of pay attention to this. Now, you must be wondering, what has GDP got to do with something like this that we're talking about? Well, frankly, if you look at GDP, you will see that it kind of comprises of consumption, the savings and the investments, the government spending, the exports, and from that, we kind of subtract the imports. One question which should come to our mind is, what is it that we will typically export? Because it is going to be imported by somebody else. If you think a little harder, we export everything that is faster, cheaper, and better for another country. And likewise, if you look at what we import, we will always be importing something which is faster, cheaper, and better for our country and our audience. What does this mean? That there is always going to be consumption of things that are faster, cheaper, and better. Yes, there is a segment which consumes premium. It's a different segment. But as all of us know, typically the propensity is to go ahead and pick the best option available. So if you look at three factors in this equation, you will export more if you are faster, cheaper, and better. You will import more from places which are faster, cheaper, and better. And we will obviously consume more where we are going to land up getting faster, cheaper, and better. Now, if we look at some of these key parameters in the GDP equation, we realize that how will we get fast? How do we get cheaper? How do we get better? At the core of it lies a single word, which is if we cannot innovate in a product or a service, if we cannot go ahead and have new organizations coming in with new ideas in a product or a service, the ability to go ahead and be faster, cheaper, and better, and therefore have a growing GDP is always going to be less. The moot point being that it's all about productivity now. The generation in which we are living now, everything that you will get to see is always going to be around productivity. Even when we went back to the times of the British Raj, we may have been better, but across the three parameters of faster and cheaper, our textile industry lost. If we go back to more colonial times and pre-colonial times, we will realize that that effect was not as high. But if you look at today, most of the players who are playing are kind of trying to offer the same. Look at the semiconductor industry. Look at the electronics industry. Look at China as a country. They were faster, they were cheaper, not necessarily better in many cases, but 2 factors out of 3 were in their favor. And that's one reason they could go ahead and become a manufacturing hub for the rest of the world. Interestingly, India is becoming a services hub for the rest of the world. And that is because we are again better and probably we are cheaper. I don't know much about faster. It depends from industry to industry. The point being, if industry cannot innovate, if we will not have new organizations who can't innovate, there is no ways that we will be able to keep this GDP equation going higher. The underlying point being entrepreneurship, which can basically create small organizations to innovate, which can't be done in larger setups and organizations in an easy way, and innovation are key to how things go forward. So the question being, is this a career option? Well, it is. It is the way growth is going to happen and going to get measured. Therefore, innovation and entrepreneurship is definitely the key thing that's going to be required going forward. Let's look at another thing. If we look at, and I'm not trying to scare you here, but if we look at the formal sector, we typically produce 2 to 3 crore jobs. Whereas if you look at the informal sector in this country, almost about 10 plus crore jobs are getting created out there. Now, I'm not talking about professionals like doctors, lawyers, CAs. I'm not talking about agriculturists who are there. I'm talking about the jobs that are getting created. And one very interesting survey came out before the Mudra scheme was launched in India, which said that about 4 to 5 crore forming and non-forming companies are actually employing about 10 plus crore people in this country. And this is past data, this is not new data. Which meant that the biggest employment creator were the small entrepreneurs. They would have a small shop, they would have a small establishment, and they were the ones creating the bigger jobs. One of the key things that we need to realize here is that if you pick the top 100 companies in this country, you will realize that the number of jobs that they're creating are reducing because, again, it is about they being competitive in the global scale and being faster, cheaper, and better. It is but normal that all of that will translate into some sort of automation, and therefore the number of jobs may not increase in such a dramatic manner. Therefore, it's time that we should understand that jobs alone are not going to be the way in which the career progression might happen, but every single person will have to, some at point or the other, think a little entrepreneurially for himself. There's a big dilemma that I'm pointing out to in the part below. What is the retirement age and what is life expectancy? So for our parents, who were probably in the 60s, 70s, who kind of graduated then, people graduating in the 50s, getting a government job, getting a secure job, security was a very big thing. And therefore, we always looked up to government. Even in the older days, you can probably hypothesize that it must have been the kingdom and the government jobs of the kingdom, like the armed forces or certain others, which must have been the source of employment. But if you largely look at it, as life expectancy is increasing, and retirement ages are kind of being stable, every single person has one very big dilemma to handle. If I retire at 55 or 60, and I am going to stay on till 80, and I started my career at about 20 or 25, I have about 35 to 40 years to earn for those 35, 40 years, as also for the next 20 years. And mind you, you are not alone. If your partner ain't working, you might have to also handle her after you. Zindagi ke saath bhi, zindagi ke baad bhi. So the challenge is that you are going to be having to look at having some sort of reserves which can last for a much longer time. Now, as all of us can imagine, what is the rate of savings? Rate of savings in this country is in the range of about 20 or 30%. This is very different from how the West works. But with that rate of saving as well, we are going to get to a situation where running incomes with inflation adjustments are going to require some sort of a backup. And that's why the question we need to understand is, being entrepreneurial, is it a question that we should think around, or is it something that we have to necessarily prepare? Folks, the way the system has been designed by the economists of the West, and I would love to name them, is that these economists of the West have landed up creating a system which is more focused on what's now. If you look at the way our systems were developed, they were more around being satisfied, santosh as a word, okay? Being able to have, I have something in my plate and enough so that I can share with somebody else his plate. This was the model with which our entire economic system seems to have evolved over the years. There was a village economy, there was a town economy, and the village economy had one person doing some or the other thing specialized, fulfilling his needs and someone else's needs. When you started to look at the West coming in, the current doctrines that they are kind of looking at, and I'm not blaming them, they have a way in which they have gone about it, is all about them, their growth, their enterprise, and dominance. That dominance, market share, growth, leadership is all reflecting and kind of coming across the processes that we have had culturally imbibed in our economies. Now, till the time the economic structure of the world is going to be one which is going to look at growth as the parameter of whether we are doing well or no, market share as a parameter, and growth in market share as a parameter of we are doing well or no, I think we're going to have some sort of a conflict. And that ecosystem, till we are in it, we will have to look and run by those rules. As you can see in the West, there ain't a retirement age. Everybody, even post-retirement, has to be working. So it's a reality that we are seeing for the short term. I think we should just understand where our systems work, where their systems are, and therefore entrepreneurship today, or at least for the next 30, 40 years, is going to be immensely important and a skill that everyone must have. Our parents went to a point where jobs were there. they could fund at high interest rates of this country savings which could save us. But we do not have that luxury anymore. So let's keep in mind that entrepreneurship will be a requirement because you have to sustain for a long time. Now, a question which comes to most of us around innovation and entrepreneurship is that, am I even made for it? What are the skills required? Is it going to be different? But frankly, if you think a little harder about this thing, we have some very interesting examples which we should think around. See these photographs. These are real life photographs of what we are seeing around in the country. You see the person with the scooter. You see this air cooler that you may have seen in the north and certain other areas. You probably see this as a an accommodation of the old potty system that we've had. Well, interestingly, there's this very intriguing program called Shark Tank, which happens in the US. Now it's kind of come to India. And there was a British mother and a son who kind of came out and made a pitch. They came and they said that I am creating a product known as Squatty Potty. Now, you know, squatting means what? It's like sitting on your knees. And what they did is they created around the British commode a sort of an attachment which made you sit straighter. And the logic that they gave is that if you sit in the squatting position, your alimentary canal and your excretion canal are all in one line, which makes the process of excretion much more easier. And they got a funding of about $500,000. Now, the first reaction I had after seeing that was, what are we doing and why could we not be there? The Indian potty system is something that has been there for ages. And that system could have been actually something which was worth so much. But it is just that there was an edge that they gave around a justification for the same and they could raise that money. Anyways, I think besides the point, what we may have had traditionally may have had some value. Let's always keep that in mind. These are what we call as jugards, right? But they are adjustments. And these adjustments are mighty useful with the ability to go ahead and monetize. If you look at our past, you have seen some of these things before. If you look at this spiral well, okay, stepped wells were all part of innovation. Somebody had to go down. They went ahead and constructed these. And these were not done by formal degrees. I don't think they had a civil engineering degree. They didn't have an architecture degree. But they were people who could understand a common requirement and they could build around the same. If we see some of our past documents, there is this one I'm showing you at the bottom, about 50 odd surgical instruments that were given by Sushrut in Sushrut Samhita. And he went ahead and did surgery on animals. And most of these designs are designs which are today inspiring the tools that we are using in hospitals. You can see the diagrams here that are given out. If we want to understand how much of innovation has happened before, just look at this one on the units of the angle of measurement. What are we talking about today? Degrees, maybe a little bit lesser than degrees. If we translated some of the older documents that we have got, Surya Siddhant, which kind of talks about how the sun's rays are kind of met here on the earth, they go into many more smaller units. Now you can imagine from a speed point of view, if they are going into microseconds, nanoseconds, and this has been done before, someone has been innovating. So it's not as though these things are in any ways alien to us. We see a time today where we are copy pasting a lot of ideas, but there is a space and there are people who have been doing it. You can see the last diagram there of a temple. It's a Jain temple, which has got a space below the pillar. Now everybody goes there, visits it, and they put their sari below it or the cloths below it. I asked the guide over there, what was the reason why they had this? And he said, sir, this is an earthquake prone area. One pillar in most temples is hanging from the top. If there is an earthquake, this pillar comes in and kind of supports the rest of the structure. Isn't it brilliant? And how much of a sense did it require? Was it too much? No. It was somewhere based on some very simple common sense. Let's look at the next one, planetary motion. If you look at Aryabhatta, they have given the entire time that is there for orbitals and long back. So the scientific acumen and the ability or the need for wanting to innovate and find out has never stopped. It's always been there. It's just that for a long time, maybe post-colonial times, we've kind of kept ourselves a little away from it. And somewhere that confidence is not been Now, there's a very interesting program which takes place in India known as National Innovation Program, and it is now dedicated to Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. I am showing you certain entries of 2009. This is one Mr. Abdul Razak. He created this utensil that you can see. This utensil is a half pressure cooker utensil and a half frying pan. The same quantum of heat is now being used to go ahead and produce 2 dishes at a time. Interesting, isn't it? For the family which has got only 2 people, for the family which has got only a single burner of gas, isn't it an interesting innovation? Let's look at what Arvind Bhai Patel in Ahmedabad produces. How many of us in our families have lifted these big handis? See what he creates. An adjustable system which can help you pick the same. Mind you, all these products that I'm talking about have actually gone ahead and been monetized. These are not ideas only. Each of them are running businesses around the same. I think Mansukh Bhai Prajapati, the person at the top, is a very famous guy for having created the 4,500 rupees Mitti cool refrigerator. Normally in the village side, food is never stored. When a lot of people say that refrigerators are kind of also ruining the health of the system. Only as much food is created, which can be consumed that day. Just in case you need to store it, this is made out of earthenware, and it kind of makes sure that things remain safe and hygienic for about a day. Look at this girl, Nisha. How many of us remember traveling by train, going to a railway station and not being able to find a seat to seat our parents or elderlies or ourselves? Now we've seen the wheels on the back, but see what she has done. Interesting, isn't it? The problem of a seat with luggage, and mind you, because the luggage balances your weight, the seat remains stable. These are 2009 entries. It's been almost 10 years plus since then. And if you see that website, you will see many more such entries. Which are. Were any of these people engineers? Are any of these people MBAs? Are any of these people doctorates? No. But they have created a lifestyle for themselves by creating such products. And that's one reason why I want to say we can do it. We just have to look. We don't have to create the next Facebook. We don't have to create the next space device. We don't have to go ahead and create the next cell phone, not the next nuclear bomb, not the next weapon. We just have to look at life around and figure out small things which can be just innovated and made more useful and productive. And you will find that we will have people who will be buyers for this. Let's look at some ideas. So there's also an idea program which happens where kids make sketches of what they think is interesting. So in the village, they said, rather than having filters in every house, why don't we have a filter right at the top with a filter meter? So the common water is now metered and the common water is now cleaned. Okay. This is a small child of 6th or 7th, I've given names also. These are from Sikkim. Here is someone from Punjab. You've seen this problem in most of the gardens that are there. And now you may have seen this on the railway station also. These reversible ones, especially where there is a lot of falling of the leaves or there is a lot of rainfall which kind of takes place. Let's look at this plucker. Okay. Someone in Tamil Nadu came out with this idea around how can we create paper which can be erased. Okay. So can we go ahead and just erase the ink or the writing on the paper and do more with this? Now, here is another idea. Most of the tanks we have of water, they kind of have this problem of draining water and sand sedimentation. What's the idea the person has created? He has given a reverse flow, or rather a slope on the reverse direction. As a result, it naturally filters out the mud. Look at this. Cleaning the fans with the help of an umbrella setup. Then animal carcass has to be picked up. Here is one more where a dustbin has kind of got an ability to kill the flies which come in over there. These are ideas of kids. A lot of these are there in all of us. But all I wanted to tell you with this slide is that, folks, this is not so alien. This can be done very easily. Like I said, entrepreneurship innovation has always been in our DNA. It's said that when Vasco da Gama was there at South Africa and his ship was kind of a little worn, his staff was also resting and all that, he came across a Gujarati trader. Okay, now I don't know if this is true or not, but it's a nice story to know. And he was kind of trading between South Africa and Gujarat. And he was sailing ships. His ships were bigger. If you notice, shipbreaking yards are a very big industry in India and have been there ancestrally. So he used to run these ships, and I think they've documented his name as well. And it is with his help that he came over to India. Innovation? Absolutely. There's a very popular story of a colleague of Rana Pratap. His name was Bhama Shah. Nowadays, there's also an award given out to his name. Bhama Shah was a trader in Europe. And as a trader in Europe, he used to sell spices, and he used to sell diamonds, he used to sell stones. And when he came back and he found that Rana Pratap is no more the king of Mewar, he went and asked what happened. So he said, "Hey, you were busy doing trade and our state was lost." So Bhama Shah then donates all his stuff and then comes back into it. But he is someone who was a global trader at that time. He must have been faster, cheaper, better. Let's look at this book from Adam Smith called Wealth of Nations. I think we hear about it in many lectures. About 250 years back, the 50 to 55% or 60% of the net GDP of the world was contributed by China and India. Now coming back to the same equation. If we were contributing 50 to 60% of the net GDP of the world between China and India, about 250 years we've been down, probably down at about 2%, 1%, 5%. And now you're seeing the Chinese economy come up, and you're now also seeing a resurgence in India. Why I gave you certain examples of the past. When we were at the rise, we were innovating. When we were on the up, we were inventing and creating. And I think that spirit somewhere, or its ability to express itself globally, has kind of come down. So as we now prepare ourselves for this new century, it's very necessary that we should look at adding that capability into our mindset and bringing around more. One more example to keep in mind. If you notice, India also has, the world actually has a culture, because half the world is already entrepreneurial. The fairer gender that we have in the world, just look at their predicament. They invest their life in a stock, which is probably given to them by their parent. They don't have a big choice in it. I'm talking about who they get married to. And if they have that choice, they kind of pick a stock. Now they stay with this stock for about 35 to 40 years. And they have to derive the entire monetary outcome from that stock. The example is basically who you get married to is the one who's kind of making sure that your livelihood is kind of taken care of. And they invest in that stock, and look at the investment capability. They are long-term in nature. We do not have the culture where we kind of dump our stock. We have the culture where we have taken it, we will remain with that stock. And in certain cases, we also pray for the stock to remain with us for 7 janmas more. Which means the ability to understand good investment is there inherently. It is about picking something and being with it for a long time. So one core skill about entrepreneurship or innovation is that we have to be able to look long term. And with half the world being entrepreneurial by nature, okay, and the rest of the world, ask the married men, they think they are entrepreneurial by nature, but then they also live with the same stock and they have to move ahead with it. I think we are built entrepreneurially. We have got innovation in this. And we find innovative ways of how to make sure everybody comes together and then a family is created. So this is not a spirit that is new or alien. We just need to change the way we are looking at it. We are all entrepreneurial by nature. So this was more around answering the question, do I have it in me? Everybody has it in different proportions. We just need to reflect back. There are many things we do in life which are necessarily innovative and entrepreneurial. There are students who are watching this from YouTube today from around 5 different colleges today. We have a college from J&K, we have a college from, I think, Odisha. Think about it. You all have learned answers, and there are many times where you do not have your answers. So what is the best way in which you innovatively give your answer? You all go ahead and take the same line, we repeat it in various ways, make a left margin, make a right margin, make our answer come through longer, and then we kind of attempt the 5 or 10 mark question. Innovation, right? When we go into engineering colleges, you will realize that there is a way. So I was from Sardar Patel in Mumbai, and there they were kind of answering. So if you ask somebody, how do you pass the engineering examination? So the answer was simple. Look at the question papers of the past. Try and find out. Okay, what is the pattern of questions in a chapter? Now you know what is the reduced chapter that you have to study. What is the logic behind the same? In Sardar Patel, it went a little higher because we had the only 2 organizations which used to make papers in those days. One was VJTI and one was Sardar Patel. And we knew who are the 2 people who set the paper. So we also knew which are the pet questions of those people. So as a result, everybody knew what was going to come in. And that's why they could attempt the answers very well. Isn't this a smartness? And I'm not qualifying that this is the way to go about it, but these are things which are there in our lifestyle. All we need to do is just have confidence in this. How do you make it happen? Well, when you get into serious entrepreneurship, there are a few points we need to keep in mind. The first point being, it's always execution over ideation. We are never going to be looking at ideas only as the way to go ahead and become an entrepreneur. There are numerous examples. If you look at search engines, you will see Bing, you will see Yahoo. Yahoo was one of the best search engines we had. In fact, before that, the entire searching used to happen through Netscape. The entire browsing used to happen through Netscape. Where are they today? They're gone. Because there was one person who came in and he executed in a better manner and not person. There's a nice line from Steve that his inspiration at some point of time was the Kindle that he kind of saw. But he went ahead and then converted that into a product which was much better. Keep in mind, or when you go ahead and do this work, you must keep in mind that it is emotional intelligence which is key. Now, what is emotional intelligence? Several books around emotional intelligence which are there. But the key point to keep in mind is sensitivity and empathy. If it is there in you, you will be able to relate to your customers and understand their point of view. You will be able to relate to your employees, understand what is it that they are thinking, and you will be able to connect with your vendors and the rest of the ecosystem and do much better. That's why it's very critical that this emotional intelligence is built up. So when people ask, how do I do it? A couple of things that you should keep in mind, like we said, execution capability and emotional intelligence. Now let's come to the contemporary situation in India. A lot of people are normally concerned around, hey, what is the option that we have? Most talked of startups are working out, you will find there's a whole market around us which has got players who are local in nature. Mind you, entrepreneurship is always going to be a journey. The entrepreneur will never fail. A business venture might fail, which means you will have to go about this journey in a step-by-step approach. And when you go about it in a step-by-step approach, you need to think that if there is a local market that I can cater to, that in itself is a big enough business. Anybody catering to one common region could actually be bigger than the national player of many other countries. Our population, if you look at Uttar Pradesh, there's a nice map on the right side that you can see over here. Every single state's net population has been compared to a country's size. And become a pan-India player. You don't need to become a pan-state player. Because you are worshipping entrepreneurship as a skill. Even a specific, faster, cheaper, better option for a small region catering to its local needs is good enough. Yesterday, I was watching one program, and I think it's Shark Tank now coming in for India, right? It's an irony because it's Shark Tank which is promoting entrepreneurship in India. They couldn't even think about coming up with an original program. But anyways, now that they have copied the program and they're doing it, they had certain very nice ideas. So there were a couple of ladies who came from Bihar, and they came out with a achar of Bihar, and they have named it Jha Ji Stores. Jha is Jha-Ji, so it is a Bihari surname, and it has got the 3 varieties of achar or pickles which can be sold all across that community. That community is getting orders from Bihari people who are there in Mauritius. They have done about 2,500 to 5,000, I think, bottles of achar. And she's doing good. Now, this is the power of local. The local problem that is there is only going to be understood by you. It is never going to be understood by a global player. If you look at how McDonald's and pizza have come forward, McDonald's has had to make the maximum number of changes to its recipes when it has come into India. I mean, who could have expected a paneer Manchurian pizza? But you've got pizzas which are offering the same, which means the power of local is on an unleash, and you are best equipped to go ahead and fight it out. So being able to go ahead and cater to that requirement is something that we need to think. Look at things. There is how many number of local news channels which are there? Every single state has its own, at least 2 to 3 channels for its own language, which means there is a market and an audience there. So when we are thinking around entrepreneurship, don't get bogged down by the fact that to create something very large. Something very small and specific can be very big in a country like India. So the more special you go, the more local you go, you might have a very good chance. Here are some examples of some Gujarati brands which kind of are now making it big on the national stage. Now, I've been through this stage of working with VCs. One of our co-panelists is also a VC himself, or 2 of them are actually, and one of them has a VC as a surname, but he's not in the venture capital side. That's Manoj. But one question which is going to be asked to you in multiple zones. So I was doing a session with Entrepreneurship Development Institute in Ahmedabad, and the senior most faculties and the deans out there were talking about unicorns. That is time of the unicorns, and there's time of the decacorns, and it's time of some company who kind of became the 100th or whatever unicorn in 330 days. And it was amazing. Only on valuation, we are deciding whether a company is good to go or not. I think this is a pet problem which most entrepreneurs today are trying to complain about, but not being heard. But it creates a lot of confusion in the mind of the new entrepreneur. Folks, if you look at the other countries in the West, from where these monies come into our country, one piece to keep in mind is their interest rates are far lower than the interest rates in our country. When the interest rate in the country is in the average, the commercial interest rate is running in the range of about 9 to 10%. And other countries have commercial interest rates running at 2 to 3%. Every single dollar can earn 5 to 7% more if it is invested in this country. This is the reason why money is coming into us. Now let's understand. They have huge amounts. So when an investor brings in $100 billion, he says, I have got $50 billion to invest. I have $10 billion to invest. I have $100 million to invest. What is his expectation that is going to be there in year 2? Let's put simple math to it. If he brings in $100 million worth of investment in this country, won't his expectation be $110 million the next year? Now, mind you, they're not happy with that. Okay, they want more because there will be some failures also. So their expectation will be 20% growth. What's interesting is in India, the venture capitalists and the high net worth individuals are expecting about 30 to 35% return per annum. And why are they expecting this? Because it is big money which wants big growth. As a result, there is a lot of pressure which is coming in on the new entrepreneurs to scale up. It is not necessary to scale up always. You can always create beautiful businesses at small scale. So please try and look through this entire maze, that this is big money wanting to attract big action, wanting to attract big questions. And that's the reason they are creating an ecosystem which is going to probably scale and run at a much larger level. We can't take the credit away from them. But in this process, some very unrealistic things are happening. You saw listing of many new unicorns, on the stock market. They fell. They had to, because it was not real. It is not sustainable. There aren't real profits. So while that game will continue, as a new age entrepreneur, please keep in mind that there are some equations we should always know about how the economy works and what is growth that we should realistically target. Entrepreneurship is always a 10-year journey plus. You will take time to create things. It can't happen in 2 years and 3 years. So policymakers who think that final year students can become entrepreneurs, we may want to rethink. That's not how it will happen. They may become entrepreneurs, but they will succeed over a period of time. And that's why education will have to give them that ability, that maybe the resilience, or maybe the emotional maturity so that they can succeed in 10 years from now. When we were running these programs of Rain Labs for the last 7 years, there are now students who have attended these programs, have worked outside, come back, and are now coming up with their entrepreneurial ventures, which is a great sign. This VC money which comes in brings in an unnecessary pressure for growth. One of the pet peeves of most of the top entrepreneurs of the country is that after 4 or 5 rounds of valuation, because they are being pushed to go ahead and get more money to show more growth, they are left with not more than 10% ownership. So imagine that most of the top companies which are there don't have owners who started it. So is this really innovation? Is this really entrepreneurship? So while these questions will come to your mind, my recommendation to all of you as students and as people who are going to go ahead and guide students is that don't fall for these mazes. There is a reality they have, which is correct, but that might not be applicable to the students that we have today. So our measure of success should be something which is very, very traditional, which is sustained. Make a 20-30% profit over a period of time. Go ahead and keep some for yourself, invest a little in your employees, invest a little into your business, and that should be the mark of real good stuff. I've seen loads of people wanting to say, I want to raise angel investment, I want to use VC investment. Folks, we can talk about this in certain other sessions lately, but that may not be the right mark of finding out whether an entrepreneurial venture is a success or not. So if you have created a good product, if you have created a small good business, be confident about it and move forward from it. Actual profits will always be better than financial valuation. One of the things that less attention gets paid to is the services economy versus the product economy. There's a rush. Let's make a product. Let's create the next product. Our businesses, our kind of an ecosystem where interest rates are running in the range of about 9 to 10% commercially, services business might turn out to be a better place to start your venture. SAP created SAP and Tata Consultancy Services created Tata Consultancy Services by selling or implementing SAP as a service. You can look at the valuations of both the companies. You can look at the net actual earnings of both the companies. You will figure out that services economy benefited more number of people, created more benefit per invested dollar compared to the product business. So when we are looking at things, we should keep in mind that there is a huge market in the services side. And when interest rates are so high, it is very necessary that we continue to have services so that we can keep earning and managing our cash flows to create a stable business. See the comparison I've given around certain companies here. When you have large money being raised, you also have large risks coming with it. Nobody is stopping you from taking a risk. But in a country where the interest rates are high, where life expectancies are high, where net earnings are lower, where reserves may not be as high, it may be smarter to find a path to entrepreneurship, which possibly starts with services economy. A number of students ask, sir, should I go into entrepreneurship or should I go into working? Well, my simple answer to everybody is, if you are born with a silver spoon and you have funds available, run for entrepreneurship as soon as possible. But if it is about you having to start from scratch, start small, get some work experience, because you will need many more skills when you're running an organization. And they can come very comfortably if you demonstrate or you kind of work in many organizations and pick some experience. There's this concept called entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is an ability. It is an inherent capability. You don't need to make a startup to be entrepreneurial. Your mothers and the sisters of in our world are not creating startups. They're creating families. So you don't need a label of a startup to go ahead and become an entrepreneur. You have to be entrepreneurial by nature, and you are. But you have to go ahead and use your skills. First gain those skills and then apply them well. So I would recommend that this is a path available at all points of time. But depending on your ability to go ahead and move, you can always choose a hybrid path. The startup might die, but the entrepreneur will not. You have to take this journey for a long time, and you will learn by experience. One question which just come in and probably end now is that what is the future like, or what should I innovate for? Now, when the US started to look at the world and dominating the world sometime in the 1900s, their whole point was around trying to design a future, trying to trying to look at what the future will be and can we be prepared for it or take the first step towards it. If we are going to create small innovations which are going to go ahead and have incremental changes in problems of today. For example, when you look at college projects that students are doing, I think the Nobel Prize for all innovation should be given to the Arduino chip, right? All engineering colleges kind of go ahead and use the Arduino chip to becoming the core differentiator of what they are trying to create. But it is a chip block which is used and it can be used to good effect. But the point is, when you are trying to encourage entrepreneurship or you're trying to encourage innovation in product design, we must encourage our students to visualize the future 10 to 20 years ahead and create a utility or a design for them. That gives you 10 years to work on the product. So many students spend so much of energy and time in trying to create a very incremental innovation in their college. That will not help. And that gives the amount of time and space for the kid to go ahead and succeed. So when we are looking at innovation or we are looking at entrepreneurship, as educationists, the recommendation will be, can we look at trying to give them a future view? Let's imagine what will be next. Take the example of syringes. We've been using syringes for a long time. It is an intrusive way of trying to get a medical cure. Have we looked at the fact that we can actually have gaseous transfer through the nose, through the buccal cavity? And medicines do get administered in small children using those methods. Why are we not having more methods like that? Because the fastest absorption which happens in the bloodstream happens in the nasal cavity or in the buccal cavity. So if we can go ahead and say, hey, the future will be around non-intrusive needles, can we create something around this? The future may be around non-rubberized soles. Can we create something around the same? There may be flexible material, nuts and bolts. Can we do some materials around the same? We'll need a bank of ideas. More on this in the next session, but basically, we need to be able to encourage them to take projects which are more future-oriented. When you give them subjects which are future-oriented, the ability for them to create something good for future and sustainable will be higher. When should I start? Well, the last and the most important question. As students who are going ahead and working, or as educationists who are encouraging students, folks, the key thing that you have got in your hand for entrepreneurship and for innovation is the college project. We've been working in this pre-incubation space and saying this for a very long time, that the 4 years you get in engineering and the 2 years that you get in management, or maybe you will get, is immense amount of 5 to 6 years in which you can create the next big thing for yourself. Because if you do something really good, you have two advantages. One, companies will get interested in you and give you a job offer. Everybody's marks in engineering and management are the same. The lower the ranking of the institution, the higher the marks in the final. And it is not standardized. So it is very easy to see through as an interviewer when we hire people that students are not ready. The only original piece of stuff that a student does in his engineering or management is that project that he or she does. And that's why it's a necessary question that gets asked. So folks, that is your differentiator. And if that is done well, good topics are chosen, good subjects are given, good work is done in that area, you can give a shot to yourself in the industry, or you can go ahead and have your own. There are advantages to the same. First of all, this is a time when nobody is asking you any question. Your parents are investing in your education. On every single kid, almost about 5 lakh rupees gets spent by their parents. And no questions asked across all the 4 years. Bas pass ho jana. So 5 lakh funding is available to you. What do you do with funding when you become old? You manage your family. You manage your home. That's exactly what is available to you. Nobody's asking you your expenses. Your home is managed. You're not being asked any results. And mind you, like you, there are at least 4 or 5 other people who are moving around. That's the time when you can create your teams. If 3 or 4 of you can get together, you have got a 20 lakh funding available, 40 lakh funding available. But look at the amount of funding that goes wasted in this time. And that's why you have zero cost of funds. You have a team advantage. There are co-curricular programs to help you out, and you have a time advantage. The least you can do is ensure that when you've finished your engineering or your management, you have a proper prototype studied and kept, which you can attempt a little later. And that's why if you design something for future, your ability to come back to it and still keep it relevant will be high. We look at iPhone with so much of awe. We look at iPad with so much of awe. They were just thinking 10 years hence. They betted internet will be everywhere. They made a bet people will like touch screen. They made a bet that people will like something sleek. They will want many things together. 10 out of their 25, 30 bets may have actually not come true also. But they betted on the ecosystem of the future. And if the bet was right, what they created was ready before time. And that's the way we need to go about it. How can we help as educationists? Well, folks, the only way we can go about doing this is by changing this environment in class. We've seen this popular movie. We will have to start moving from the picture at the top to the picture at the bottom. And yes, you cannot do away with this. But when the picture at the bottom demands the picture at the top, that's when the real education will take place. I think all of us feel it. All of us have this in mind, but that's the way we need to go about it. Good sayings from Chanakya, the ultimate teacher we've had, who's changed the way this country has moved. There's a lot that a teacher can do, and there's a lot that the students can learn from the teacher. I hope we're all going to be successful in this, and we can really make a change in our environments and choose this opportunity of being innovative and being entrepreneurial seriously while we are in school and college, and make a change for ourselves for the future.